remembered J.C. Duggar. She was kidnapped by Philip Gerardo, who was a sex offender on parole out of California. This happened in the early 90s. Some argue that his parole officer failed the public in properly supervising this parolee. The officer missed evidence in the offender's behavior, evidence of violations in the electronic monitoring that he had, and that this led to Ms. Duggar's continued imprisonment by him. The sheriff, Hinkle, stated that much of the case was blamed on overworked officers, that probation and parole officers have dozens, if not hundreds, of cases that have to be seen, and along with shortfalls in budget has led to problems with probation and parole in supervising the offenders. Unfortunately, this was a rare case, and it was tragic for Ms. Duggar. I believe that probation and parole officers are overworked, and because of the numbers of cases they have to supervise, they're just overwhelmed by the demands of the requirements by the supervisors and judges. I have 26 years with the department. Part of that was in correction, and the last 10 years have been with probation and parole. The state of Georgia's probation and parole the officers are overwhelmed. It's just too much at times. The Department of Community Supervision needs to create policies that can reduce the caseload so the officers can properly supervise their offenders. Now, I will present the facts and prove that officers are overworked and are overwhelmed by the amount of everything involved on a daily basis. I will give you solutions to these problems. Now let's discuss some of the problems that we face every day. Like I said, the caseloads just continue to increase every day. For myself, I get at least 2 or 3 a day. Large caseloads keep the officer from properly supervising the offender and the sentences that were imposed by the judges. In some cases, some of the required sentences are not even met because the officers have so many other offenders to be seen. In case in point, in Fulton County, Georgia, the district attorney Paul Howard stated that new offenders, the new probationers who commit new crimes, and that there are so many new crimes that it's impossible to keep track of the probationers that you have, which leads to some are not even being seen. Like I said, judges place certain conditions of probation that the probationer has to abide by, that they place in the sentences. And like I said, these are not being met because of the amount of cases that an officer has. Like myself, I have 108 probationers alone and 30 parolees. In some cases, some offenders, like I said, are not being seen. The Minnesota Law Review stated basically what I'm encountering is that the low-risk offenders are just being checked off because of the amount of people you have to see. Just you see one, you check it off, and move on to the next one. And this is kind of the case in point of what the parole officer ran into with Duggar. He had such a large caseload. I'd like to talk about the dangers of parole and probation officers. We go see every offender. Every offender we see are felonies, not misdemeanors. Some are violent, some are not. The ones who are violent have to be seen more than once a month. In these cases, this leads to a possible risk. And some of the risks are being assaulted. In some cases happen. Some other risks are being assaulted by their dog, and that's happened on lots of occasions, especially. Some of the policies that could change is when a probation probation is put on probation by the judge to, if he's a low risk offender, not to be, doesn't have to be supervised. Just let it, just time run. Another idea would be 2 for 1. This would allow the offender to get, for every good day, you get 2 days in return, like in confinement, like a parolee, 2 for 1. Another way to decrease some of the caseloads is, of course, hire more officers, and of course, with that, pay is involved. It's part of the Team George's Career website stating that the probation officer only starts out at $32,000 a year. Another area is set to cap a number of probationers and parolees could have. The officer could only have so many. Is to some of the cases like sex offenders, mental health, their offenders are set at a certain number. Make all officers have a certain number. Now that we cover some of the problems of the probation officers, now I'm going to leave it up to you to determine if we are overworked or not. In that, after hearing all the solutions that I've given you, like I said, I'm going to leave it up to you. Sadly, I'd like to say that I'm overworked and I'm overwhelmed, and I am talking about early retirement. And I have seen in the past from previous people why they are overworked. They don't like the departments going, and this is the reason why.